Satire exists on two levels, the text and the subtext. The text, these are the words that we hear, the images that we see. But the subtext, that's under the surface. And this is the meaning, this is the point, this is the target of the satire. The main target of Coonskin satire is the representation of black folks in American media. There are other targets as well. This is a multi-layered satire. It goes after the idolization of criminal elements in society, particularly the mafia. It goes after the representation of white Southerners, Italian Americans, Jews, take your pick, lots of heavy stuff, lots of stuff worth criticizing. Okay, but what about the text? What words do we hear? What images do we see? Well, this is where the film became very controversial because Ralph Bakshi built his characters out of racist iconography and racist language. Is the film racist? No, not at all. It's targeting racism. It's a satire, but still, it uses these images, it uses this language, and some people had and have a problem with that. That's one of the tricky parts with this type of satire. Sometimes people just don't get it. A little history. Coonskin's most overt target of satirization is the Walt Disney film Song of the South. You've probably never seen this movie because Disney has never released it on home media. At least in America. You can find it here in Europe. In America, Walt Disney would very much like you to forget that this movie exists. Why? Because it's super racist. The problems come in because Walt Disney didn't want to make the movie at all political, so he completely ignored politics and history, and in doing so, made a movie that paints a very racist, inaccurate version of history. And that's what happens sometimes when filmmakers completely ignore politics when they put movies together. And keep that in mind with modern movies. Sometimes you hear these YouTube movie critics complain that Hollywood is injecting politics into their film. Oh, we just want escapism, don't ram politics down our throat. Well, this is what can happen when you completely ignore politics. You can paint a completely inaccurate view of reality that is racist or sexist or whatever. In fact, I suspect some of these movie critics, when they say they want escapism and not politics, what they really want to escape is a world in which minorities exist. Anyway, Song of the South, Coonskin. Song of the South has some live-action segments, those are the Uncle Remus segments, and some animated segments, those are the Brer Rabbit segments, and that is here in Coonskin as well. There's a live-action part where some guys are escaping from prison, and during this escape, one of the characters tells the story of Brother Rabbit, Brother Bear, and Preacher Fox leaving the South and going to Harlem. And that story, the Brother Rabbit story, is the animated part of the film. When Rabbit, Bear, and Preacher Fox first get to Harlem, they run across a phony, revolutionary preacher type, Simple Savior. During his church performance, he promises the congregation the strength to kill whites, and also as part of his performance, he shoots up some representations of white oppression. John Wayne, Richard Nixon, Elvis Presley. Oh man, doing Elvis like that? I like Elvis. Anyway, what Simple Savior is really doing is running a money-making racket. Rabbit notices this and steals a bunch of the donation money. The Savior tries to have Rabbit killed, and in a scene directly out of the Brer Rabbit stories, our Rabbit escapes. With his wits, not with his brawn.
I'm begging you, don't throw me out that window. 'Cause I was born and raised in a garbage can.
The Rabbit here, and in the Brer Rabbit stories, is a trickster character. So Rabbit and Bear kill Simple Savior and take over his money-making racket. They have aspirations to rise to the top of Harlem's organized crime syndicates. But there are a few enemies between them and the top. The first of which is a horribly racist cop named Manigan. They take care of him. And next on the list is the Godfather, voiced, by the way, by an uncredited Al Lewis. That was Dracula in The Munsters, you know, Grandpa. There are a few surprises along the way, and we've still got that live-action sequence going on in the background, but that's enough out of me as far as plot goes. Let's talk some highlights. I'm a big fan of satire like this Jonathan Swift-style, brutal and crass satire, exactly my thing. I like satire that draws us in with offense and then makes us open our eyes to see the much greater offenses that are lying beneath the surface, and Coonskin does this really well. Unfortunately, like I mentioned before, not everyone gets this kind of satire and is actually offended by it. That's exactly what happened with Coonskin. Al Sharpton, with his core group, that's the Congress for Racial Equality, when he saw this film, hated it, thought it was racist, thought it was offensive, he protested it, caused a big hubbubaloo. Is that a word? Hubbubaloo? I've lived in Germany too long, I don't remember. Caused a big stink, and the producer, or the distributor, of Coonskin dropped it. And the movie failed spectacularly. Al Sharpton and his group, they just couldn't get past the imagery of this film. But for me, the imagery is one of the highlights. I love Ralph Bakshi's style. I love his ugly people. I love the gritty backdrops he puts them in. It's just really, really cool. Just very unique voice on the page. Or screen, in this case, on the screen. On the story side of things, I really like how authentic Coonskin feels at times. This was helped, no doubt, by Ralph Bakshi. He went around Harlem in researching this movie, and, with a little tape recorder, and he just asked people what it was like to be black in America, and they told him stories. And sometimes the movie will break from the, narrative thread of Rabbit or The Prison Escape and just give little vignettes about life in Harlem, life in America. And I really like these sections.
I know I ain't pretty, but that's not why my man left. That leaving left me alone and lonely and hard to sleep. That's how I meets Malcolm the cockroach.
I wonder if that was a story that he heard and he just transcribed it and put it in the movie. No idea. Could be. It's a lovely scene regardless. And speaking of lovely, the opening song by Scatman Crothers is so great. There's no way I can play it for you, but find it. You can find it. It's on YouTube. Even if you don't watch the movie, go listen to this song.
I've been waiting on the welfare line, the employment line, the gas line since 9. Now I'm waiting on the pawn shop line.
As a final highlight, I love America. At least how America is represented in this movie. Here in Coonskin, she is a buxom giantess. What a perfect representation. Big, beautiful, enticing, and singularly committed to suppressing minorities and not afraid to use violence to do so. Yeah, that's America. But I wouldn't say the movie is perfect. Like a man being enticed by America, it has some shortcomings. Well, I don't really have a lot to complain about here. I rather like this movie. It's probably my favorite Ralph Bakshi film. But some people will find the movie to be racist. Like I said before, people found it to be racist in the past. You might find it to be racist now. I don't think it is racist, but I can't help how you might react to it. I would encourage you to see it for what it really is, as a satire, and recognize that it's not racist and neither is Ralph Bakshi. It's really unfortunate that so many people see the movie this way, and saw the movie this way in the past. One of the things Ralph Bakshi wanted to do with Coonskin was jumpstart a black animation movement. In making this movie, he hired black artists, black graffiti artists, black animators to get this film going, to give them some experience, and then hopefully, get this black animation trend going forward. But, thanks in part to Al Sharpton and Core, this movie failed, it went away, and there was no Coonskin 2, there was no Coonskin 3, and there was no black animation movement that got jump-started, and that's just the end of the story. Nice job, Al Sharpton. But even if you recognize the film for what it is, you still might not like the film, because this isn't escapist entertainment. This is a hard watch. And you might not be into those, and that's fine, I get it. Personally, I rather like hard watches. But, I know I might be in the minority here. This film is kind of ugly at times, and partly because it holds a mirror up so we can see how ugly America is at times. And yeah, not everyone is comfortable looking in mirrors.